Yes, yes, yes. Huh.
You can start. Yeah.
Yeah. So, where do we leave off?
We were talking about the affordability of the comics, and that is not
Yeah.
the reason why we do it. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is like your comics have to be affordable because like your reader has to be able to afford it. We had people occasionally come with some very expensive books. And but that was a one-off thing. Most people come and the the comics are pretty reasonable. Because in reality, it's like a relationship you have with your reader that's ongoing, right? Like I come, I see basically like a particular book, and I'm coming back next time to see if you've done anything else more in the series. So people have been following for a while include what you call Ravi Ahuja and his comic series that come on. Nikhil Gulati. Nikhil Gulati is like I'm his biggest fan in India. What do you call? I keep going back to seeing what new comics he's done. Both basically his science comics and his historical comics.
And he is
Yeah,
somebody who uh, did the work in ICF, and like
yes,
he presented his comic evolved, and finally it reached Penguin through ICF, right? Like that. There's a journey to that
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
So if I remember right, when I first met him in Delhi, he had two books that he had previously self-published, and he had also published the Indus series, the first part. And I saw it there for the first time. And his Bijapur and Golconda book, the one which was basically a look at the forts back then, was completely amazing. I was like, wow. And then I noticed the Indus book, and I was like, two books, huge books. I was like, wow. Okay, grab them, grab an extra copy for some friends. There was a separate copy for the archives I took. And actually, I don't have any of the original books because I gave away what do you call all his books. It basically other than the copy in the archives, all the books I bought of Nichols are all gone. Friends of mine have taken them and they're like, "Oh, this is great. When you're going for the next fest, buy me whatever else he's got." So his audience is oh, like I'm like a middleman for his audience. But yeah, um, I think like one of the questions you asked me, who's my favorite comic artist? It's damn hard to address in India because I love a lot of people's work.
Mm.
Especially when they move in the genre of like nonfiction or they move in the genre of
Mm.
uh, what do you call historical work.
Yeah.
It's damn hard to pin down because everyone does such interesting work here.
Mm.
Um, like I enjoy basically Sumit's book, uh,
From
the
Buckerman.
Kashmir Kahani webcomic, and basically
Yeah.
the next book that he's done. I like his autobiography, which basically fits right into the kind of books that I enjoy reading.
Mm.
And it's very idiosyncratic work. Like all these guys are making stuff. Like there's a definite readership for them.
Mm.
It's may not be a mass market readership, but it's basically
Mm.
dedicated. Like I have been buying stuff from all these guys for years.
Mm.
I'll keep on buying books from them for years. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah, I think maybe you need to ask me questions.
No. Like I think this is the one interview where like I'm just listening. Like the because the conversation is very free flowing, and because this is the story which I also wanted to learn, right? Like the whole how did ICF came into being, because that in turn is inspiring and still inspiring new comic
Dude,
creators
it,
and
it is a purely collective thing, huh? It is
yeah, that
like
felt
see,
like yeah. I think you already explained it, but still, I just wanted to that get
yeah.
one specific
Like
question,
like
specific.
we've done nothing, man. We've done nothing beyond just making some payments. Everyone else has done everything. Like when someone comes to us and says we want to do a fest in Kolkata, we're like, yeah. Take the money and go. Just do it. We don't care. Yeah, you
That is
reuse all our resources. We don't care. If you
even
want to
yeah.
print more resources,
Even
print more.
I am aware of that. Like right, when we
Yeah.
were doing Kochi, like 2018, my friend Tony Davis did it, the
Huh.
Kochi edition, and
Huh.
2019 also he is the one who did it. So and 2022 now after COVID, like I also was part of. I assisted Tony in organizing Indie Comix Fest Kochi, and I could
Huh.
see when in the meeting with Bharat how like he just gave the reins to everything, just like that. take the password,
because
take the
yeah,
password of the Instagram, take the password of the Gmail,
yeah.
and just you
Because
just run the show.
there's nothing to hide in anything. You want to share things with people to let people do the max they can do. Because that's why when we were approached about branding ICF, we were like, there's no point because we're not seeing it like a brand. We're just seeing it as something anyone can use, you
Correct.
know.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's the point of trademarking something which you want people to use? Yeah, take the trademark, do what the hell you want with it.
Mm,
Because it's always going to be different from Comic Con or from any other festival.
correct.
Someone else starts the independent comic fest, great, it's your baby. It's like no problem. It's like if you want to say something like Indian comics, great, use it. Or indie comics, fine. But honestly, man, more comics the better. No one really cares. It's like ICF is just like a label you put on things.
Correct.
But basically, the point of that label is just for us to say that let's gather under an umbrella. But there could be several umbrellas, and like we wouldn't like care in the least, because in the end, we all don't know how long, how what do you call, how much fun this is, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, I really like having fun. I'm a bit mental regarding this, which is that I go and be like extra strict regarding things because I'm scared of like getting screwed up.
Mm,
But really, like man, I like doing this. Like the biggest problem we had for years in Bombay was finding a place. And I
correct.
found a place,
Mm,
and I found a place I can reuse over and over again, year
mm,
in, year out. So now I'm okay with that. But that was the key element in Bombay. If we found a space, we ran it on what do you call it? Whatever budget we had, we just ran it, and we just wanted to make sure it happened. Something happened.
mm.
Um, and that's still the ethos literally. It's a volunteer-driven thing. No one's trying to turn this into like giant commercial publishing event.
That's true.
But it's 2 days now. It's like versus one day before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so yeah, I was getting into that. Let's talk about the Indie Comics Fest Mumbai. It's
yeah,
pretty much different from whatever has happened before. It's now 2 days. It's I think record number of participants. I at least I feel that is the way it's
yeah.
going.
There's 81 people who have registered, and some of them want double tables. And I'm like, do you have enough books for double tables? And then they send me photos. I'm like, yeah, you have enough books for double tables. Plus,
It's
there are collectives where they're like four guys, and they're like, we can't fit four guys on one table, so let's spread out. Like,
awesome.
so yeah. And the thing is, I like Delhi for me and Bangalore for me, and even Kochi. They're the more interesting festivals because they're hyper local. Bombay has got a lot of people gathering together, but the other three places where this happens, it's hyper local. Even Kolkata, hyper local. Goa, hyper local.
Mm,
Nobody really comes out of state, right? Or maybe there's one or two visiting participants, but
mm,
you're really seeing everybody locally coming together.
mm,
Bombay, it's a mix because you've got people from Bombay and you've got people coming from out of state, which is great. That's like the ethos in Bombay. So
mm,
everyone come together and like have fun. So
mm,
each festival has been very particular to the place it's from,
mm.
and the the gender ratios and what do you call this thing are like quite like even everywhere.
Yeah.
Bombay, the last fest we had in Bombay, it was skewed towards male creators, but that was always there from the first fest in Bombay. Always
Mm,
like a 60-70% male, 30% female
mm,
ratio.
mm,
But this it might be just even, like spread down the middle between
mm.
what do you call male female creators. So it's like kind of nice to see that balance in Bombay for once. But it's largely basically through a mix of outside and
Mm.
creators. Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking forward to it, man. It's
Yeah.
going to be
Why
crazy. I don't know how I'm going to physically do it.
why 2 days though? Like when does that
Uh,
decision come? Like generally people say like even in Kochi also many people ask me like
uh,
it's 2 days. So I said 2 days might be a bit tough to manage and things like that. Then suddenly Mumbai is doing it, and then now we are also thinking that Kochi also we will do a 2 day thing. So but when did that decision come? Like that they need to do 2 days.
so the first fest we did, right? It was crazy because we just said we'll do it for one day, and we got a huge response. People turned up, and we were like, "Oh wait, we have to redo this now." Okay, fine.
Mm,
And it just felt normal to do it second time, third time. Wasn't as stressful.
mm,
This time I was like, why do we keep doing one day festivals? Because it just feels like a blip. And I really wanted to be like a longer festival.
mm,
So now it's 2 days, but I'm aiming for 3 days at the end of the year. So please forgive me.
Oh, where? Which location? Mumbai, sir?
Yeah, in Mumbai.
This year or the next year?
I've already booked the place.
Oh, but that is like, will the people stay though at 27?
I don't know. I'm going to run a 3-day festival, and it's on Bapu's birthday, so it's on 30th September, October 1st, and October 2nd. I've
Oh,
already booked it, as in I put the paperwork in. I will not confirm the paperwork till after this fest, because then I'll know whether it's a good idea or bad idea.
so
So
that is a,
2 days.
that is an another thing, right? Like this is the first time so close to one event is happening so close to the same place, right? Like it's happening
Yeah,
in March, but as well as in September, and I think 6 months
yeah.
in between. But that is
Because
cool.
that
That
is
is also,
by the way,
yeah.
yeah, that is just pure luck because we could not get a place. And
Uh,
when we got the place, the nearest date was this date. And then
mm,
we lost that place. And we were like, oh my God, we had a hall for 100 tables. And now we have a hall for 0 tables. So now where do I get an alternative place? And I found an alternative place,
mm.
which was air conditioned, which was pretty good. Yeah,
Okay, which is
which
the
was
place? Is
unexpected.
it too early to reveal?
Yeah,
It's,
same place,
oh,
same location,
Bombay YMCA.
Bombay YMCA. Yeah, yeah.
Cool,
So,
cool.
uh, it's like, but there's a second option in the backdrop, which is the old place. If the work on that place is done by October, they told us you can take over. And
Yeah.
so they'll give us those dates as well. So that part is worked out. So either way, whichever place we get, I'm going to try to hold the festival for 3 days
Mm,
in October. Um, because I think for it to be culturally relevant and for people to basically take it a little more seriously.
mm,
Having it twice a year makes sense, at least in Mumbai.
mm,
Other places, twice a year actually is not a bad idea because it gives you a 6 month
mm,
breathing room to look for your next comic, to
mm,
basically think
mm.
about your next comic. Although 1 year is great, man. 1 year is a great time to develop, sit, prepare a comic. So it doesn't make a difference whether you go once a year or twice a year. There's
Yeah.
always like space for you at some point. Um, but the reason I wanted is just that is because I think 6 months as a cycle for someone
Mm,
is great because they may have new books. They may want to prepare a book for the next event, which is the
mm,
weird thing about this event. Everyone keeps telling us that I came for the festival, I saw the books, I met people, I bought a ton of books, and then I went home and I wanted to have a book at the next festival. So that's why I came. So
mm.
you see people turning up with a single comic, and they're like, I just came, I saw other people, and I was like, okay, man, I can do this. And then you went and made a book. Like, so the
That
festival also is like
that is
follows that.
exactly same my origin story also. 2018, I
Yeah,
went, I saw everyone, and I was like, no, it was like I could also make it. I was like, I want to make it, and
but
yeah, I was putting some web comics and Facebook, and Tony just called me and said, let's put out the web comic, and I was like, no, 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 I want to create a comic, and that's how everything started. So, yeah.
and there's something great about seeing a work in print, right? And having an audience for it, and being there physically, and being like, okay, like we earlier used to offer people the option if you can't make it, don't worry, send your books over, we'll just sell them. But then we realized there's no point. The point
Mm,
is you creator and the audience, like you're meeting
correct, correct.
your like your people who like your work for the first time. It's exciting, man. I mean, I don't know, like
It's true.
we sell our books at the fest, the
Mm,
what do you call Comics India books,
mm,
what do you call the new version, Verity and all, Alakazar.
yeah.
And Bharat sells his own work as well, which is his own very things he does only for the fest. And he
But
really looks
yeah, I
forward.
have Bharat's work with Kanaya Selection. That is a very good journalist kind of a
Yeah,
thing. Very personal,
he's
very
he's
small.
he's constantly like next fest I'm gonna make something new. So he's always making something new for each festival that comes.
That
It's
is
it,
an exciting thing to do.
it's yeah, it's an ongoing process. It's like
Mm,
I think the most exciting thing is for people I've been following for a long time, they never tell me what's coming. So even if Nikhil has a new book, I never ask him. I just want to turn up at the fest and be like, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? It's that whole feeling of like, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be something really like good, good, good. And always there's something new. Like Bharat's, Nikhil's, Abhijit Kini,
mm,
what do you call Ravi, what do you call all these guys always have like something like new and cool at the fest. Plus they're like other creators, man. There's so many people at the fest. Um, and that's again a problem because for me now, after being an active reader for years, now that I'm organizing something,
mm,
I find I often have to step back. because I want to buy everything. So my brain is like, okay, now wait, hold up. This is way too much to deal with.
Uh,
Like the first
another,
fest, I bought everything. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Another thing which I want to ask is like ICF also has this very, the only time when the organizers like are visible is when the end of the festival you archive the comics. You pick up everybody's comic and you
Yeah.
take it,
Yeah.
and then I talked to you and I learned that like
Yeah.
that you can see the archive. So when did that come like that? Because that seems like a very very hard thing to do. That now I learned your archival process, and that is very very meticulous. So when did that
Yeah.
decision come that we have to contact, but the only thing is like we have to get one copy from everybody and just store it somewhere. Like yeah.
So that is really Bharat and me. When we
Mm,
first started the idea that we'll do the fest, we were just offhand say just get one book from every creator.
mm,
Because we saw Bharat has seen, and I've seen through his document because he recorded it. He has seen the Comiket archive, the one in Japan.
mm,
It is huge. It is basically every book that has been published at Comiket.
mm,
One copy is always sent for the archive there. And what you have is a timeline now where you see an evolution of thought, an evolution of process of publishing,
mm,
how the books become more professional, how everything gets more streamlined.
mm,
And within that process, you also see these artifacts emerging, which is basically like um, very unique designs that
mm,
go against the grain at Comiket, but it's still
mm,
viable and it's still published at Comiket. So Comiket is the world's largest comic convention. Basically, it's Japanese. It is entirely what do you call? I think doujinshi. I don't think it's so basically it's all self-published work.
mm.
There's no commercial manga available there. The
Okay.
commercial mangaka who come there will publish their own individual work, which is not available anywhere else.
Okay.
Um, that highly individualistic strain of what you call publishing is unique to them. Like you won't see this in Angoulême. Angoulême, you'll see a mix of independent and mainstream.
Mm,
And that is such an interesting idea, which is there room for this kind of a thinking? And it turns out that's exactly what Indie Comics Fest ended up being,
mm,
which is just highly individualistic comics in whatever the process someone wants to follow.
mm,
Um, it's basically yeah. So the archive is an extension of that. And one of the things you've done is, which I would like to do more,
mm,
because I keep clearing out and cleaning and what do you call it, going through the books, is basically like photograph the archive
mm,
over a period of time, starting from the beginning to the end. We maintain an Excel sheet on the website, which has
mm,
got everything we published right down to
mm,
the size of the book, what do you call it, the staple type,
mm,
the print, what do you call it, what type of printing, what type of binding, the names of the creators, the date it's published.
mm,
Um, and that part is like essential to just keeping a record of what we've done and where we've done it. I have fallen behind on maintaining the archive because all I've done right now is update the old one, and I've not done any updating since 2019 December. I've just maintained it as a the books are maintained. I've not collected the books from Bangalore, which are left over from Kochi. Some of the books are in Bangalore.
mm,
I've not collected the work from Delhi from the last fest. I'm going to collect all of that
mm,
this
mm,
month, enter everything, and keep it all up to date. But yeah, so the archive is something which I really want more help with, which hopefully I'll find in the form of
mm,
somebody who like take an internship. We pay them for the what do you call work they do just to help me update and maintain the archive for like a couple of months.
mm,
Because I really want people to see the covers, to see the some of the internal pages
mm.
of everything that's been published going back. Yeah, that's just the books. There are postcards and the stickers and random things which you've taken, which yeah, I've just those are in a separate box altogether.
Mm. Do you see any challenges in the Indie Comics Fest, or do you have any concerns over the way Indie Comics is evolving,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah.
everything is
I
possible?
just I just have one concern, and that is I don't want to see merchandise, man. I really just want to see comics. And that's why the rules from the beginning were always framed around please bring one comic at least. Then we just overlook everything else. But with this fest, what happens because I've got a space and it's a good space, and I don't want that energy of that space to have the what do you call it, hipster flea market merchandise scene, or what do you call it? That scene where Comic Con scene where you come and then there's this hyper selling attitude, which is I think a little weird because maybe it's the merchandise engenders it. But but if you've seen the original fests that we've had over the years, when there's no merchandise, especially because in Bombay I've always been strict about that. I'm not allowed merchandise. No, it's only books. Even if it's basically children's book, text and image, it's a proto comic. I'm okay with that. Um, but things are a lot calmer, man. There's none of that what do you call it, like shilling and hyper selling that you see where someone is like trying to sell their product. Because I've been for a few festivals in which we've participated, Comics India has participated, and the noise and the kind of people are telling us you guys should pitch your product more. And I'm like, pitch, what is this pitch? You're a leader, come here, look at it, ask us questions, we'll talk about it. We're not trying to sell anything, dude. We're trying to find a readership. There's a huge difference between what you call trying to sell something and trying to basically find an audience. Um, and that's like the spirit I just want to keep. So for that reason, nothing which is non-paper based is allowed. And if it's paper based, it has to be based on your comic. That means image or some drawing or some character from a comic, great. Put them, give them a has to be based on your comic. And basically, we assume all creators are operating in good faith. I never assume someone's coming intentionally to cheat or game the system. So even when we do have the occasion person who's like, no, I didn't realize, etc., we just let it pass because there's no, we're not here to be like guardians of any kind of morality or stupidity. And we're like, yeah, it's okay, no worry, let it be. But this time I've been a little explicit because I specifically don't want it, and people have been very good about it. They have been like, I've read your rules. I have these things. Do you think it will conform? And I never say yes or no. What I do instead is I just give them the rules and the FAQ. And I say, follow this. If it works out for you, come. If you think it doesn't fit the criteria, then you, of course, I mean, you're welcome to come when you have the criteria met. But I cannot say yes or no to you. I mean, in the end, you have to judge yourself and fit yourself in this. The only thing I can be explicit about is the criteria. Here's the criteria. It's a comics festival. The word comics is in the title, just like how you have Comic Con, right? Like something related to comics has to be there. That's also why I approve of things like cosplay and everything, man. It's amazing to have it. You want to turn up what do you call in cosplay at ICF? I don't have a problem. But we don't have a stage for it. We don't have anything, facilities for it. But anything which is even periphery to the hobby, like I paint miniatures. What do you call it? Like anything periphery to the hobby is also welcome. Someone wants to publish comic criticism, you're welcome. You've got a zine about comics, you're welcome. As long as the focus is on the medium, everything is like acceptable. Yeah. I'm cool with what do you call those little bobbleheads you made of your characters. Yeah, that sounds good. Bring it. It's like, it's fun to see those things because you've got something you've invested in as basically a creator. Bring everything ancillary to it, as long as it's ancillary to the comic and it's not basically something separate that has no relation to your comic. So, yeah, that's the only thing which is like, and we're not really strict about it. Yeah. So I know when people are going to turn up with some rubbish and I'm going to be like, yeah, dude, it's fine. You didn't read the rules. It's okay. I'll just let it pass. It's not going to be a big deal. Yeah. As long as they have one comic, just one comic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Also a bit about Verite, right? Like there is a
Uh,
like it's a very interesting book because the first half is for Indian comics and the second half you turn it down, turn it upside down and it
uh.
becomes a manga with Japanese comics. When did that collaboration happen with the Japanese crowd? And
So Verite is basically all the goodwill directed at Bharat. Um, so this is basically, so everyone loves Bharat. I love Bharat. So I'm
we all
in a
love
partnership with him. Yeah. So Bharat is basically, we have a lot of friends. One of our friends is Ryan Holmberg. Ryan's an art critic and he writes for the Comics Journal. And Ryan used to live in Bombay down the road from my house. And we met, we hung out, he used to come over and have tea. And it was weird because he's like a noted critic from the comics journal, and he lives here down the road. And I got to talk manga with him because Bharat and I back then when Bharat was running Comics India, we were mad about manga. It was the reason we basically um, were on the forums in Comics India, and we were just reading manga, and I was reading scan nations, translated scans, and Bharat was also doing the same thing. And Bharat had gone to Japan to make a film
Okay.
in 2008 called The Fragile Heart of Mo, which was basically about Dojinshi culture there. And he met a lot of people. Ryan had seen the film and Ryan was heavily into Gekiga, which is a type of manga meant for adults. Ryan introduced Bharat to Mitsuhiro Asagawa, basically, who's the former editor of Garo, an independent comics magazine in Japan. Garo's been around since the 70s. I think it's still on, it's still there. But Mitsu's not the editor anymore. So Mitsu had some 22,000 pages of manga that had been gifted to him. Like this was gifted to him by creators. Like so he told us, why don't you guys publish some in India? So we were like, we can't really publish it like that. So he said, no, what you do is you basically just take like a chunk of things at a time and figure out what you want to do with it. So we were like, okay. Then we said, let's publish this alongside Indian artists because that made sense. Like if you've got what do you call comics in India, what do you call? You might as well contextualize it by publishing it against people are currently making comics in India, and so this is basically Japanese manga from the 70s and 80s, Gekiga from the 70s and 80s, not manga, that we just published against Indian artists from the present day to just contextualize it and see how everyone's essentially doing the same thing. It's still self-expression. It's still very unique things that other people may not appreciate in traditional like publishing, but it's got an audience. It's got a definite audience. It's got definitely people who lean towards it. And we periodically, we get this thing where this is very unique. This is very this thing, and it's where like it is. It seems like it, but it's part of like a tradition which is there, which starts in Japan. It's there in India also, where people are just creating work that is just satisfies themselves.
Correct.
And yeah, that's it. There's no like that's the magic to it. But there's no secret to it. It's like in the end, publishing independent comics is a lot harder than it looks. You're basically trying to publish something for which there's an audience. You just cannot pin down that audience in terms of that it's XYZ person. Like it's not like you're publishing for teens and teens have certain desires and motivations and all that you can pin down. When it will just appeal to anyone who it appeals to. It's not going to sit down and be like there's this narrow bracket of people, urban 20 to 40. No, there's no way to tell what do you call who Verity will appeal to. It's quite open-ended on that front.
Nice. I've heard that you are a big board game fan. Like, so there's one of my questions like, is there any other medium other than comics you enjoy? So I know that about board game, but also in Instagram, I saw your miniature.
Those photos are only there because I have to maintain a presence, and I just posted 2 photos, and that's it. I don't really like social media. I like following other people on social media. I don't really want to be there.
Yeah, it was very tough for me to research you also because you have very carefully wiped your.
Yeah, I've been scrubbing myself clean off the net. I don't want to be here, man. It's like
I type in Aniceto Pereira and some a father's name comes in first. Then I have
Aniceto. I get his email all the time. So people email me because he got the Hotmail account, I got the Gmail account. So he got his name at Hotmail, I got the Gmail account. So I get his mail all the time, and I'm literally a forwarding service where I get his mail and I forward it to him. No questions asked. So it's like he at least twice a week I forward him emails. So it's not like for me it's fine. It's like and I know him. He lives around the corner, so it's not very far. Yeah. But wait, what's the question? It was quite interesting.
Any other medium other than comics which you enjoy? Yeah.
So before I answer that, I'll just talk about one thing, which is when we were younger, right? I mean, everyone remembers this because I mean, at some point before social media, this web existed. I was able to get into comics because of the hobby nature of Web 2.0, I think, or Web 1.0, where people were making their own websites in GeoCities and they were
Oh,
selling books,
oh,
right? So
yeah.
when I started off reading, I had access to more information than I had now
Mm.
and more things that I had now, like to buy books, to bring down books, to discuss books. The forums were so active. Now with social media, what happens? The discussion is almost empty. It's just showcasing. Oh, yeah, look at the pretty thing I have. But back then, we were on all these forums, and I was like, oh, I like Bone. What else can you recommend? And basically, I like Stuck Rubber Baby, right, which is a book by Howard Cruz. What else can you recommend? And people would give me histories. People knew them. People interviewed them because the community was so active in the US back then
Mm.
on this Web
Mm.
2.0, far
Mm.
more active than it is now. Like
Correct.
right now, what it feels like, there's a lot of self promotion.
Exactly. Correct.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but there's no fandom. Like the fandom back then was not toxic. Like this weird Star Wars and Marvel DC fandom, like where you just want to publicly praise everything. But back then, people are like, dude, this story arc is so cool. Like I have somewhere in my Yahoo account,
Mm.
what do you call, emails from Ed Brubaker, because I used to chat with Ed Brubaker when he was basically doing, what do you call, the
Mm.
complete low life series and
Mm.
everything. So like we were all like open to everybody, man. It was Mike Barron I used to email all the time. He had done a series called
Mm.
Nexus.
Mm.
He's the one who taught me how to write. Like he introduced me to a book called Elements of Style, and basically I had questions about the book because I had to learn grammar to read the book. But
Mm.
there was a kind of open-endedness to being a comics creator back then, because the web required you to maintain anonymity while basically you being publicly discussed,
Mm.
right? Now
Mm.
your life's on show. You're forced to generate content for your audience, and you have no privacy effectively. But the audience's reaction to that is not the same reaction as when we were there. People are very passive. There's no discussion. There's just,
Mm.
oh, click like, you know,
Mm.
it's too passive, man. And that's the difference because I went through both those stages. The stage where I was fanning over everybody, I was communicating by email with everybody.
Mm.
And then Facebook and Orkut came in, and it went. You could see the shift, right? And I had a presence on those platforms only in as much as I just joined them. I
Mm.
tried following what people used to say. Oh, you need to post regularly, all that stuff. It was so boring, so
Mm.
distracting, and there were
Correct.
no conversations happening.
Mm.
And so I left. And yeah, that is basically like the difference between then and now. And an Indie Comics Fest in that environment would flourish
Correct.
because basically there would be a mystery of what is going to be there.
Mm.
People would turn up. The real mystery is like I go for every fest not wanting to know what's coming. That's why we do so little promotion other than the name and the person.
Mm.
Because I don't know what's coming. I want to go see what's there. And that excitement of what's there
Mm.
is really basically like driving me to the. I need like some mystery, man. I don't watch what do you call
Mm.
previews for movies before they come out. I want to go see what it is. Even if it's a dumb movie, like I'm ready for it. I don't care what the critics say. I'm like, it looked, what do you call, dumb as an idea on paper, but fine, let me go see it. But yeah, that's the difference, and we've experienced it. I think it usually influences how we also make comics.
Mm.
But ICF is like a step away from that because it's volunteer driven. So I don't have to promote it on social media. Everyone else can do it themselves.
Mm.
But it also allows us to step back and not be a brand, right? Which is
Mm.
basically like, we're not a brand. We're just a thing you apply to this thing. So you come and join. Collectively, we share this whole thing together. And then we all go home and we try to do some things through the year to stay relevant. But, I mean, I like the idea that it's a space where people just come, meet up once in a while, then they go home and there's no need to stay relevant for the rest of the year. You come up, creeping up along in next 6 months later and you have your next festival and then you again die down and then basically like we need that space, man. Like we
Mm.
spend too much time promoting and self-promoting and there's not enough time to enjoy these things,
Correct.
like especially in the process of creating a comic there's not enough time to enjoy comics itself. I read less nowadays, which I don't enjoy. It's like, yeah.
That's a great note. But still, you haven't answered the question. Like, what do you enjoy? Like your other activities, board game and.
So board games, the strange thing about board games is
Mm.
I have changed and evolved in board games. So I started playing board games in 2012 after, and this is very interesting, after all my comic gang married
Mm.
and they moved away. So my main hobby group was my comic gang. My closest friends were in the comic gang.
Uh,
Most of them got married and moved away. So now here I am, where I'm like, shit, man, I ain't getting married. And I'm like, I have cats, by the way. So yes, I will meet all the stereotypes of singledom. So basically, I'm like, good God, I'm not getting married anytime soon or anytime ever. And I have tons of comics. And okay, I'll read my comics. And I was reading comics and I was unbothered for a couple of years. And I was like, I need another hobby.
mm.
And then I got into board games in the weirdest way ever. I just ended up at someone's house. Um, and
Mm.
they were very welcoming. And they were like, they made me play a game for 9 hours straight. It was Civilization, a medium Euro that now I can play in 3 hours, but back then it took me 9 hours,
Okay.
and it was 9 hours of me fading out mentally, checking out mentally
Mm.
while
Mm.
being there. And then when my turn would come, I would basically do something,
Mm.
and I would ask them, "Does this work as like if I want to do this in the future, will this help me?" And then someone would say yes, and I'd say, "Okay, then I'm doing this," and I would just do it, and I would not take back my move or anything.
Mm.
And then it got interesting because I won that game in a cultural victory, and then a guy beat me in a military victory in like the same turn. So he
Okay.
won the game. But I was
Mm.
like, I won a game, man. 9 hours, I survived. And actually, I didn't really know what was happening because I went home. The next day, one of them calls me and says, "Hey, do you want to play Space Empires tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Okay, fine, I'll come. I don't have like a what do you call plan. I'll come." And I won that also, but again through a fluke because someone else was playing my
Mm.
game for me. I
Mm.
would just say, okay, how does this work? Can I do this? Can you do this for me? And those two games basically broke my mind. And
Mm.
I was like, I can't do this. But I persisted and I just ended up playing other games. And board games are as, what do you call, like variegated as comics. There are lots of independent things, there are lots of original things that you'll never see anywhere
Mm.
else.
Mm. Awesome.
And there's narratives within it, but I'm not there for the narrative. I'm just there to have fun.
Fun.
Um,
We have talked a lot about comics and everything. I just want to know your current projects which you are working on, and you were yeah.
uh, we gonna publish something by Ikichi, the guy who
Mm-hmm.
is behind Stupid Guy comes to India.
Stupid diagrams to India, right?
Yeah, so it's published by Blast. So his other work is there's a book which we're doing about a man-elephant conflict. We're putting that out soon.
Mm.
Variety 3 will be out soon.
Yeah.
And we're trying to basically start a magazine which is political satire.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like room for that. In fact, one of our well-wishers on it passed away a while back. But
Oh, who was that?
basically, yeah, so there's room for that. But basically, on the independent comics front, we just got 3 more books out this year.
Okay.
We'll put them out in 3-month gaps. After Variety comes out, we'll do Ichi's book.
Mm.
And then I think Variety 4 should be out before the end of the year also.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh, yeah, so this basically always something in the pipeline. COVID kind of interrupted everything which was in the plan, and then we had to relocate and find new printer because our printer is based in Pune.
Mm.
And he's damn good, but now we found an alternative in Bangalore. They
Mm.
shut down during lockdown, so we
Mm.
lost like like I think significantly we lost someone very good for the community
Mm.
itself because they were very very precise and very what do you call like keen on printing our work also, which was
Mm.
important.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, because we faced censorship early on. The person who agreed to print our work
Mm.
refused to print it because of one of the stories,
Mm.
which we thought was strange because he was calling it pornography in a way, but we were like, where's the pornography? And the other printer looked at it and was like, no, it's okay, this is fine. There's
Mm.
nothing wrong with it. So he basically printed it as it is. But yeah,
A bit of a technical question. Do you guys you mostly do offset printing, right? Because
yeah, yeah.
mm, All
We
right.
do offset printing, 1,000 copies at a time. We would like to do 1,500, but and it would significantly be cheaper per unit.
Yeah, correct.
But often we have strict budgets, so when we decide to go for printing something, we've already planned and allocated the money like 6 months in advance. So basically, we know we're going to spend this much at this particular point in time. So we start saving, we put a little bit extra inside. We allocate money from previous print runs for this. And yeah, so we plan way ahead of time for a print run. So when the time comes, we can just make the payment, do it, keep it everything in storage, and start selling the book.
So, how challenging do you think is distribution and marketing of such independent books, right?
I don't think it's possible to market independent books. So, as an example, if you look in the US, when Bone came out, which is basically cartoon books, Jeff Smith and Vijaya, Jeff and Vijaya Smith's book, basically it caught fire because it came in a time when there were comic shops, independent comic shops, and um, there were people writing about independent comics, and someone like Neil Gaiman recommending something means something catches fire. But that was because in the US they built that system up for like 30 years, where they had festivals, they had an independent comics culture which was existing. They had an underground culture. Oh, it's worth talking about it. Like a lot of people talk about the American underground comics. They talk about Robert Crumb and everything. But there was a guy called Clay Geeds, Geerds. Let me actually just, because my brain after COVID is not the same brain. So I've seen some of his work. What he basically did was, yeah, Clay, Geerds. So he published thousands of comics. Okay, self-published. There was a thing about him where I think Jim Valentino said that if he got 7 pages together and a cover, he would just print it, right? So his ethos is much like one of my friends here, who's a zine publisher, is just put it together, publish and be damned. He's like, I don't care for market reactions, etc. So a lot of people in the US got their first start through his publishing, because he was kind of like, oh, let's publish, let's publish, let's publish. And he's also one of the reasons why you have such a vibrant comic culture in the US is because he published thousands of books, over his lifespan. And there were small books, pamphlets, big books, this thing. Nothing was, off limits to him. So that ethos comes from there, which is people have been independently publishing and built up over the years, so that at some point, like something critical broke mass and became a movement. Like Bone was such a unique comic to read because back in the day when I started reading, I was getting the original cartoon editions. I still have them there at Leaving Windows right now. So my original cartoon books are all there. And seeing those books for the first time and seeing someone do that back 25 years ago, 20 years ago, was like 25 years ago. I was ordering from the late 90s. Before eBay existed, I was ordering to websites. Seeing those books exist makes you kind of also look at this record of a movement that's been happening. And you can see the footprints because I used to actively follow American independent comic culture. What was happening, who was doing what the scene was. And now I don't because Indian comic culture itself is so time consuming, like who's doing what here. And you can see the start here. But you're looking at like 20, 30 years of building up before we have something like a Bone breakout, or we have something like hit critical mass where independent comic culture becomes mainstream culture, like how it is in the States, or in Europe, where like there's that cross-pollination happening and people are accepting of both books that belong in a mainstream space and books that belong in independent space. So you'll sell more things, but also your audience will keep demanding more things of you. Like, why aren't you publishing this? Why aren't you publishing this? Why aren't you publishing this? Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, Verite is like our vote in favor of paper. basically we believe the print culture is never going to die out. Same way ICF is like our belief that print culture is never going to die out. Everyone keeps talking about a move to digital. I don't think it's ever going to happen
I
unless.
think, yeah, whenever like I have put out books in both digital and print format, but only when the print format comes out is when people are like taking sudden notice. Okay, there's a new book out. That is only time they acknowledge it. But otherwise, it's like, okay, it's a digital thing. Like we'll get to it later. But the print thing, that's something to hold on. I feel people.
Yeah, and possession is 9/10 of the law. I don't own any of my digital media. I know Amazon will take it away from me tomorrow.
Mhm,
I've signed away my rights to it
mhm,
when I bought it in the first place. So yeah, but when I have a book, even if it gets old, it's still
mhm.
my book. It's with me.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, one final question, Sito, just to wrap up everything.
yeah.
What should people expect from this year's Mumbai ICF on 24-26?
Honestly, I have no clue because 81 people, and I don't know half of them. Like
Oh,
I knew people from the previous fests. Some of
mm,
them are coming,
mm,
but I don't know most of the people here. I'm like, yes, that is a good thing. I don't want to know most of the people here. I want to see new stuff. It's like, yes. So I'm excited about that. I've actually kept a budget aside. Like everyone should go for a festival with a budget because the biggest temptation you have when you go for a festival is to exceed your budget.
mm,
And I always go for festivals budget. I'm gonna first go look at everything, see everything,
mm,
and then I'm gonna buy. But basically, like that budget is essential because comic festivals will break your wallet because you'll see things, it's all amazing and you love it all, and then you're like, I can't pay for it all. And
mm,
so that is the thing which is gonna like I think hit everybody at this festival.
mm.
So just come with a budget, don't exceed the budget, and like take everyone's number for future. Just like, okay, when can I see you again? But yeah,
But also,
that's the thing. Yeah,
yeah,
where that part of like, oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No, no, no. You finish the
No,
thought.
that's the thing, right? But that part of having enough money for something becomes really interesting because, um, like I love comics, and my this what you're seeing behind me is not actually my library. My library is outside and then spreading out through the whole house.
Mm.
But basically, like I've been accruing books. I'm saying accruing because I don't actually collect books. I just they end up sticking to me. Like when I'm walking past the so suddenly they stick to my hand. What are the books? And
Yeah.
yeah, money has left my wallet, but like this book just magically appeared. Like I don't know what this money did with my wallet. But yeah, so like accruing books is just I lost my train of thought. Sorry. It's like
Yeah, it's a,
you were saying?
yeah, yeah. I was just asking that question. Yeah, I was asking to somebody who has never been to an ICF before, because there might be
Okay,
people who are coming for the first time, right? So to
I hope
them,
so.
how would you? Yeah, we hope so too. But to
Yeah,
them, how do you pitch ICF basically, especially the Mumbai one?
the most important aspect is it's free. Okay, I can't believe I have to tell people this, but it's free. We don't charge for anything. It's just we charge the people who are coming to exhibit for the table because we have to rent that and rent the hall. But the whole fest is free. If I'm doing a workshop, the workshop's free. It's all designed to be free because why would I charge you to for you to have a good time? I mean, like that's the whole point. It's like we're just trying to organize this, but you need to basically come and have a good time.
Mm.
So come, just do whatever the hell you want, short of burning the place down. Okay. We had someone come in on a skateboard one time. It was damn entertaining because
Awesome.
she was actually pretty good at it. So she was navigating on the skateboard.
Oh.
Um, but yeah. Um, but yeah, just the main thing is, oh, I'll explain this in a way that's a little different. The first time I read The Sandman, I was 10, I think, or 11.
Mm.
It blew my mind, right? And then it made me suspect that the adult world was hiding all this cool stuff, right? And I needed to find it. And that kept happening to me as a teenager, as basically a man in my 20s.
Mm.
I kept finding cool stuff and kept thinking, where the hell has this been hidden my whole life? And for anybody at any age, even in your 50s, when you come and you see cool stuff, your first reaction is there has to be more, right? Like this can't just be the end of it. And that's the truth. You always end up finding these cool things. I play board games, I read comics, and I keep finding cool things, man, to do. I never get bored, ever. There's always something cool to do. It's like, and even the old things are cool itself. You go back to
Mm.
revisit books, revisit old games, play them regularly. They become part of your life. You think about them, you think of strategies. You think of art, you just sit and look at something just for like hours and you're like, okay, this is cool. But yeah, if you want to discover cool things, this is like the essence is to visit places where like you will find people with that cool stuff. And it's free. I can't say this enough. It's free.
So Indie
Like
Comix
there's no
Fest
money
is
involved in this
yeah.
equation other than what you pay the creator. Yeah, why would I want to keep you comics? Yeah. Someone actually asked me, "Are you sure no charge? I won't turn up and there won't be a 20 rupee charge." I was
Oh,
like, "Dude, you're there to spend your money on comics. Don't basically like spend it on anything else." It's like, yeah,
yeah, that's a nice way to end our conversation also.
yeah.
Indie comic space, a place to discover cool things for free. Yeah.
Even
Awesome.
I'll be honest, I don't think anybody minds you just sitting at the table. I was standing at the table and reading half the book. Like
No,
I, I,
no.
I used to do that a lot. I used to stand there and
Yeah, I stand like this when somebody's reading it, like, will they, won't they, that kind of a thing. But still, it's very heartwarming for somebody to read the book and then just look at us and just tell us it's a good book. I really enjoyed it. And just say that, and sometimes they even say that, no, but I can't buy it. I said, no, that's not an
it's
issue
okay.
at all.
Yeah,
It's
it's
okay.
fine. Just read it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
true, right? Like, I think this is the closest we get to a kind of like a performance thing, right? This is a comic making is a very personal thing. You are sitting in a room
yeah.
making it. This is the way of you to just the performance is this. You are sitting right across your readership and just performing the comic for you.
That's why I keep saying reader or audience because it's someone who's coming to appreciate you.
Correct.
Someone in the first fest we did, someone came who was an MBA guy. He told one of the other friends of ours who was actually visible because he was carrying a badge saying volunteer, while the rest of us were like we had taken
Mm,
off the badges by then. So he told him, you know, you guys should basically be loud and you know should sell more things. And everyone was very quiet and sitting back and just watching
mm,
us. And
yeah.
I was like, yeah, because I think you missed the part where like nobody's actively trying to sell you anything. Like it's just
Mm.
what do you call a creator and the readership and the audience who's there waiting.
That
They're
is true.
waiting for you,
Yeah.
but it's not like they're trying to like force something like down your throat. It's
Yeah.
like
Even
force feed
I
you.
feel I am a little like it's not a part of my aggression to sell, but I always get up and I just give a book to their hand. That I used to do, but even that is
Yes.
not like because when I look around, they're like just sitting and many of the artists are just sitting and just waiting for the guy to pick up the book. But I
Which
just
leads
feel like handing them over because even them coming to the table itself is like a very big deal for me still. Like this is I attended I think twice now, but still it's
uh,
for me. I just have to get up because they're like the like I'm there because of for them only. So I just
uh,
hand over book to them and I just wait. I don't say anything, but sometimes I also tell them what the book is about because in Kochi I
uh,
think you have to do it because they are not used to this because I have brought out an anthology comic and they are not used to the whole anthology format and
anthology.
they might just flip through and just see that okay different artists happening and what is going on is there.
Uh,
So I just explained that to them, but yeah, the pitch is like, yeah, that's the thing. But
and
even
I'm,
that might be
I'm
deemed a little aggressive to some people, but that is
uh,
something which I like to do. Yeah.
yeah, but that's all fine because see, at the end of the day, it's self-expression, right? Right? Basically, you're
Yeah.
trying to express yourself,
Correct,
and
correct.
everyone's got a different way of doing it. So it's not that you
Exactly.
can follow one method where you like decide to shell it
Yeah.
actively.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to do it differently. You're doing it differently. Someone else is just sitting there and being like, "No eye contact." It's like, and that is also legit. It's like
Correct.
it's
Yeah.
legit.
I
They're
think
like,
that is
listen,
you have to do what
yeah,
you are comfortable with. At least
yeah,
my
they're
side.
like, I don't want to deal with you, just deal with my comic. Like, don't look at me. It's like, if I could not be here, I would not be here. But I'm here
That is
because I
true.
basically wanted to
That is
say
so
something,
true.
and my comic is saying enough for me. Just read my comic. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
ultimately, I think the aim of everybody is the same. Like
exactly. Like
just
you
read
want
the
to find
comic.
a readership, man. You want someone
Just
who
read the comic.
identifies and enjoys your work, and that it's
Even
such
I
a
got live criticism also of my some of my work. Like I think one of my book is a satire. So somebody read through the entire book and they were like, okay, you have to make more positive stuff. Like that.
oh,
But
yeah.
that is also very good. Like that is good, right? Like you are
I
getting
mean, it's a
yeah.
reflection on your work, and they paid for it, right? So they're allowed to make that criticism.
Oh,
They paid
exactly.
for it.
Correct, correct,
It's like,
correct.
yeah, it's
Yeah, that is true.
at the Goa festival. No, sorry, the Pune festival. I think this was.
Mm,
It was the Goa. Oh, it was the Pune festival. At
mm,
the Pune festival, there's a woman who came, and she is very passionate about bees. So
mm,
she bought her bee books. Okay, they were cute, very cute,
mm,
and very amateurish and fun to look at.
mm,
But they were not exactly purely comics. So you know what happens? People came for the festival. She sold
mm,
nothing. But
mm,
her attitude at the end of the day was like, "Oh, I spoke to everybody," and I was like, "What do you want?" And they told me basically to make a comic on bees because it was like we don't understand this. It's a bit complicated for us. Can you make a comic on bees?
mm,
And that happened to a lot of other people also. They came with something. They didn't sell anything. Because they didn't have an audience there. Like the audience was basically
mm,
who they're waiting for is not there. And that audience will either come next time or they'll have changed their books next time.
mm.
But it's a process, yeah. It's an ongoing process. It can't be that
Mm.
I came, I didn't sell anything, so
That is
therefore
true.
the
Correct,
festival is not a success. Because you're
correct.
finding your audience, so that's part of the charm of the fest. It's also requires patience and evolution over time.
Mm,
And you're expressing yourself. That is the most important aspect of the fest. Irrespective of whether you find an audience or not, the person who you're trying to really satisfy is yourself because basically the selling
mm.
is just the last stage of that.
Correct.
The expression, putting it on paper, feeling happy with what you put on paper, irrespective of what it means to other people, right? That
Mm,
that part actually, like you may or may not satisfy that need to appeal to someone else or find a readership. But
mm.
you've put it on paper, man. You've taken that courage to put it on paper, and you've come to the fest. That's actually like you won. It's like you won.
You won.
Yeah,
You won already.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because what is there? Like, there's nothing else to like. It's I mean, winning as in just you made it. It's more like I don't actually think life is about winning or losing. Because for me, that's just like a dumb thing.
Mm,
But like, um, but you made it, and that's like the spirit, man, of the fest. Which is why really I want people to just see it as a place where you come with your comics, and it's a safe space for comics.
mm.
It's a place you get feedback, criticism for your comics. It's a place where you find other people like you, like who are like, damn, I had this idea and I made a comic out of it. Like,
Mm.
dang. So like, yeah,
That is true. On that note, I think that's a
yes.
very good note
Sorry,
to end the
I've taken up
conversation.
all your time.
No, 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 no. Please, please, please. But that's a very good note to end the conversation also.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Sito. I
yeah.
hope and wish for everybody, for everyone who loves comics, that Mumbai Comic Fest is a huge success. Yeah, we have all.
Big time.
I'm
And
also
like,
coming.
yeah.
Like, I don't go anywhere, but I'm definitely coming to Mumbai. And yeah,
It's
I.
very sad that Bharat and I this year have not traveled for any of the fests. And
Oh,
this
is
is
it?
the last year. So 2019 was normally the year where we travel, each of
Mm,
us, for all the
mm,
fests. We go and see
yeah.
everybody.
Okay.
But last year we didn't do it because of COVID lockdown. This year we're making it for everything. Going to
Yeah.
go physically for each fest and join it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait for all the fests for this year. So everybody, please do come to Indie Comics Fest Mumbai. You will have a really good time. It's 2 days, so there is
Hope
some
so.
time for you to. There was time for you guys to, bring everybody, visit the first day, and then bring everybody and for the second day and make it a grand
There's
success.
still registrations open up. There's like another 5 slots
Yeah,
left.
yeah. The registrations are still open.
Yeah.
So if you want to participate and you have an idea, it's just a matter of going to the printer and getting it printed out and just
Yeah.
registering and coming. It's that simple. I always tell people, like, Many people ask me, ICF, how do I do it? I have no idea. I just said, you draw something on paper, you scan it, you print it, and you bring it. It's that simple.
That's the yeah. That's been the ethos of mini comics for the longest time.
Longest
We
time.
just
It
photocopy.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the paper quality.
Yeah,
Nothing matters. It's just bringing it,
yeah,
finding your audience, and then you will figure out. Okay, then you will evolve yourself into what kind of
yeah,
artist you want to become. On that
yeah.
note, I end the conversation with Sito. Thanks a lot, Sito, for doing